All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mutualist Musings. And you may be wondering why Bill O'Reilly is on the screen instead of me. Well, I'm about to tell you. I stumbled across this Bill O'Reilly video, and like I've said in previous videos, I have been checking in with him lately, occasionally, just to see what's going on with him. Since he left his cushy home at Fox News, and he's doing his own thing now. Um, and as you can see by this latest video title here, um, O'Reilly, is Joe Biden a socialist? Uh, O'Reilly is still as entertaining and as kooky as ever. Obviously, this video is going to be full of inaccuracies and very funny commentary, and I'm just going to break it down for you guys. Yeah, let's dive right into it here. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, I just want to say that I really want to do at some point a debunking PragerU video again. I really do. I know I say that every video. Like, next time it's going to be a PragerU video. It's just, they haven't done anything at PragerU that's like really, really good lately. Like really good. That I feel comfortable uh, debunking. They did an interesting China video where basically they said, well, capitalism saved China. Never mind that they have record inequality in China, and they basically have an authoritarian state capitalist government in China now. Now, of course, they flip that in the video. They flip that and spin that as, well, now they're back to communism, because that's just the way PragerU uh, operates. But I will get to PragerU at some point. But like I said, they just haven't had anything that's really been compelling enough to me lately. But anyway, for now, let's listen to Bill O'Reilly um, just make an ass of himself talking about how Joe Biden is somehow a socialist.
Here's my question, and I hope you read my column entitled What Joe Knows on BillO'Reilly.com.
I want to read that column. Admittedly, I did not read that column, but I have to read that column. I definitely will read that column. I might bring it up in my next video, but I definitely have to read that column because I want to see what information is in that column. It might be similar to this video, so maybe it won't be worth it, but probably will be worth it. I got to read that column.
if you read the column, you'll come to the same question that I have arrived at. Is Joe Biden a socialist? Did he change somewhere along the line from a capitalist who has a beach house in Rehoboth, Delaware, a nice Maine residence in Delaware, and I think he's got a couple of other places too? So has he changed any? He's never had a private job.
I love that. I love that this is like a classic conservative line that if you've never had a job in the private sector, that somehow automatically makes you some sort of like firebrand communist, you know? Um, like, okay, so teachers, what about teachers, Bill? Do you think that all of them are somehow socialists? He would probably say yes, but I know several teachers because, I'm actually an educated person. I know professors. none of these people were socialists. I don't think I went to school with a single socialist uh, as a teacher. Um, I don't even think I went to school with anybody that was an actual socialist, like as a classmate. Um, Now, granted, some of my classes were pretty big, at least at university. When I was in community college, the classes were pretty small, and even some of my university classes were kind of small. But most of them, uh, there were a number of them that were pretty big. So I didn't get a chance to really uh, talk to a lot of these people, but I guarantee you that very, very few of the students were actually socialist. And depending on, I guess it maybe depends on what your major is. I know Vosh has made the point that um, if you choose a major like sociology, like he did, maybe you'll encounter some faculty that are a little more left leaning than others. Since he went, since he was a sociology major in California, he did say that one or two of his professors identified like literally as Marxists. Um, so that's fair. But for me personally, uh, I was a political science major. Now, that is a decision I regret today, uh, but uh, putting that aside, I was a political science major, and none of the faculty that I encountered were actual socialists. We did have a teacher that actually grew up in East Germany, but she would joke around, that she was some like hardcore leftist, but in reality, in private conversation with her, like she was saying in reality, like people in America, they do paint me as some sort of hardcore leftist, but in Germany today, I'm pretty moderate. I'm basically like center to center right, you know? So, um, so that just shows you how off the spectrum to the right our political spectrum is, which is something that I've discussed in the video before. But anyway, I'm getting a little off track here. The point is that uh, that Joe Biden is not a socialist, first and foremost. And second of all, being in the public sector does not automatically guarantee that you're some sort of firebrand socialist or communist or whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
Never really did that. His wife's an educator, but they got millions of dollars worth of property, but a lot of these politicians have that. So you trace it, comes back to books, lectures, things like that. Okay. So now Joe Biden is basically telling the world, I'm going to govern from a far left point of view. There's no doubt about that. There's no one can deny that. I mean, I
Okay. Oh, wait.
guess Jen Psaki could try because she denies there's a real problem at the border. So I guess she could. But
Okay, so I might get into the border situation in a later video because honestly, I haven't been keeping up with what's been going on at the border. What's been going on at the border is awful, but what I can say about that is basically Joe Biden has been continuing the um, the policies of the Trump administration, but since he's been doing that, all of a sudden, the Republicans are concerned about human rights and the conditions at the southern border and going like, oh my God, what about the children? Oh my God. Now that Biden's in office, it's a similar thing like the Media Matters video. Now, of course, Media Matters is awful, but they did this really interesting video where um, Sean Hannity, um, under the Bush administration, they showed a clip of Sean Hannity wholeheartedly defending the NSA and criticizing the Democrats for like the Democrats who were against the NSA and the Patriot Act and all that as being unpatriotic and weak on national security and all that. So that was his position under the Bush administration, and then they juxtaposed that with a clip of Sean Hannity under the Obama administration going, "Oh my God, Fourth Amendment rights, protection of unreasonable search and seizure. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is terrible. This is awful. Oh my God, Obama's awful. This is terrible. Government overreach. So this kind of reminds me of that. What conservatives are doing with the whole border situation now. Um, this is kind of analogous to that. So when Trump does something, it's great because it's a Republican in office doing it. But when a Democrat does the exact same thing, oh my God, it's suddenly terrible. So, and to be fair, Democrats, like the hardcore partisan Democrats, can be like that as well. Um, but conservatives are the ones that tend to be more tribalistic and partisan hacks, basically. Um, but again, there are people like Bill Maher and people like that are like Democrat good, Republican bad. Um, and there's Hannity on the that are like the opposite, where it's like Republican good, Democrat bad. And O'Reilly is also Republican good, Democrat bad. So um, anyway, um, also to his point of uh, oh uh, Biden's governing from a far left position. Why? Because he did some random executive order that said, "Hey, let's not treat trans people like shit." Oh wow, Bill, that's so far left. I mean, to him, that is, I guess it makes sense because to him, treating anybody that is any different from him at any level, that is a far left position. Like, wow, treating anybody with any decency that's different from him, wow, that's so radical. But yeah, so the transgender sports thing. Here's my quick opinion on that. I do believe that transgender athletes should be able to compete as the gender in which they identify, as long as they can meet a certain threshold hormonally where they don't have an advantage. Like if they want to compete as males, for instance, or I'm sorry, if they want to compete as females, um, if they were born male but they identify as female, um, if they can meet if they're at a point in their transition where their hormone levels are that of a typical female, then I say, yeah, go ahead, go for it. But if their hormone levels are still that of a male, then no, I don't think that's fair. So I think that's a position that I've seen even from trans people that are okay with that. So I think that's a very reasonable position, and I don't think that this bill, you know, says anything against that position. So, but again, of course, treating anybody with common decency that's different from Bill O'Reilly. To Bill O'Reilly, that's like a far left thing when really it's just the decent humanitarian thing to do. Um, but with with Bill O'Reilly, the other thing that he doesn't like is the Keystone XL pipeline thing. Uh, and like I said, there were some problems with how The jobs were cut. They should have replaced the jobs with like guaranteed good union jobs rather than just cutting the jobs. There were problems with the way the Biden administration handled that situation. So um, that's a fair criticism. But I'm not going to defend the construction of a pipeline on federal tribal sacred lands. That's you're not going to get me to defend that. That's just unacceptable. And of course, O'Reilly doesn't care about that. You know. So again, far left, anything Bill O'Reilly disagrees with is far left by definition to him. So anyway, carry on.
Um, President Biden is governing from the far, far left. The question is he a socialist? Because the progressive left is generally that. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, you know the deal.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is a socialist. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Elizabeth Warren, who was a Republican until 1996. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So, yes, Elizabeth Warren, who this is true. Elizabeth Warren was a Republican until 1996, which coincidentally was the year I was born. She was a fervent Republican until 1996. Now she did change, of course, to a Democrat, but she's actually pretty moderate. Um, and she's not some firebrand progressive. She talks a good game, but she's not some kooky far left, you know, whatever O'Reilly wants to say. Yes, she is pretty good when it comes to tax policy. Um, and she does want to raise taxes on the wealthy a little bit. And of course, since Bill O'Reilly is wealthy himself, he's salty about that. So, of course, he has to defame Elizabeth Warren and lie and distort what she's actually about. Um, but no, she's not a socialist. She actually is very capitalist. And Bernie Sanders, I mean, yes, the dude calls himself a democratic socialist. But what he really is a mild milquetoast social democrat. Social democrats are not socialists, generally speaking, and Bernie certainly isn't. Bernie Sanders, he's not really even a social democrat in terms of having any principles. I mean, Bernie Sanders caves to the Democratic establishment under the slightest bit of pressure. He caves to them at almost every opportunity. Same thing with the squad. Um, Ilhan Omar will buck orthodoxy occasionally, but really, other than her, AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, they're all pretty much the same. Um, so Bernie is basically an establishment neoliberal who talks a good game and is able to use the rhetoric of kind of like a 40s or 50s style labor Democrat to try to again he tries to use that rhetoric to expand his appeal, but in practice, he's extremely weak and unprincipled, and no, he's not a socialist whatsoever.
Okay, let me throw up three things right off the bat.
Before he does that, um, O'Reilly is also one of the people that buys into this myth of, Joe Biden's not the real president, and a couple of the people pulling his strings are AOC and who is the other one? Oh yeah, AOC and Bernie. Yeah, no, uh, the exact opposite is true. Joe Biden is the one making AOC and Bernie kiss his ring. That's the truth. So anyway, carry on.
So this week, as I mentioned, the president's going to go to Pittsburgh on Wednesday. He's going to unveil his Build Back Better program. Now, all this is a massive amount of spending. That's all it is, government spending.
Oh my God. Governments spend money? Oh my God. I didn't know they did that. Oh, that's so terrible. Oh my God. I mean, it's not like we live in a society or anything. Woo!
You got $2 trillion on COVID check relief, okay, and other pork. And then you got 3 trillion, boys and girls, for the Build Back Better plan. Hasn't been passed, all right? So that's $5 trillion of money the government doesn't have. The government doesn't have that in the Treasury, doesn't have it hanging around, doesn't exist.
Bullshit, it doesn't exist. Hey, Bill, if there was let's just say we were attacked at one of our 800 military bases around the world, and, the government had to pay for an expensive war, would you automatically would you say, "Oh my God, how are we going to pay for it?" Or would you automatically cheerlead like you cheerled the war in Iraq? Which would be more likely to you guys, to the viewers? Which do you think would be a more likely scenario? Would Bill O'Reilly say, "Oh my God, how are we going to pay for this?" Or would he say, "Oh my God, gather the troops, send them overseas, and pay for another war"? So don't give me any of this fiscal conservatism bullshit. Conservatives don't give a shit about government spending. They give a shit when it's stuff for the people. When it's stuff for regular people, then they give a shit about government spending. But when it's Wall Street bailouts, corporate welfare, when it's all that stuff, they don't give a shit about it. But then they trick people who don't know any better into thinking that being opposed to this kind of government spending is somehow a populist position. It's not. This is stuff that's actually going to help people. So this stuff just makes me really, really angry. That's why I'm getting a little heated. Sorry about that. But this is just absolute horseshit.
It's $5 trillion. It's a lot of jack. So where are they going to get
Hey,
it?
Bill. By the way,
all right,
Bill. Whoops. What am I doing? I clicked on something here. Get over there. There we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, Bill, slow your roll there for a minute. I didn't hear you say anything about how the Fed was pumping $1 trillion in liquidity a day during the pandemic, I think it was about this time last year, to keep the stock market from going under. $1 trillion a day in liquidity. The Fed was pumping $1 trillion a day into the stock market. You had nothing to say about that. But now all of a sudden, oh my God, the deficit, oh my God, what are we going to do? You had nothing to say about that. You had nothing to say about the Republican tax bill 4 years ago that ballooned the debt and the deficit that your buddy Donald Trump passed. Nothing to say about that. But now all of a sudden, again, when it's a Democrat in office that proposes a spending bill, oh my God, the debt, the deficit, oh my God, how are we going to pay for it? So, this is really infuriating stuff. Anyway, carry on.
all right. Well, he has to get it from we the people. Unless he's going to sell California to the Chinese. All right, that raised a couple of trillion. But I don't think he's going to do that. So he's got to get it for you and me and corporations, and he's got to go into the...
Aha! He gives it away right there. That's who he really cares about. People who think that Bill O'Reilly is standing up for them. Now, of course, the the only people that really think that Bill O'Reilly is standing up for them are like 80-year-olds in retirement homes. But still, just in case you haven't noticed, Bill O'Reilly only cares about defending corporations and defending the rich, defending the wealthy, defending the ruling class. That's who he cares about defending. He doesn't care about regular people. He doesn't care about workers. He doesn't care about poor people. He only cares about the rich and about the ruling class. That's who he's on the side of.
Infrastructure of capitalism and get the money from us in order to pay for this. That's what socialism is. That the strong central government tells you and me how much we can have, how much we can keep from our efforts in the workplace. The government tells us how much. And the socialists say, not so much. No, we want most of it. So corporations basically can go overseas. That's what Trump did. Trump dropped it, I think it was 28 to 21, and he demanded and embarrassed corporations. You could come back to the United States, make your stuff here, hire people here. It worked.
Okay. So, well, first of all, let me address that last part. First of all, Bill, Trump did a lot of outsourcing in his term in office. So, no, lowering the corporate tax rate did not work. It didn't work. All it did was, again, line the pockets of Trump and his rich buddies and your rich buddies. That's all it did, was further line the pockets of your rich buddies. So that's literally all it did. But I don't really want to get into the corporate tax rate because we'll get into taxes, I guess, maybe in a future video. But I want to talk about what he said about, socialism is central planning and a strong central government deciding what you can have and how much of it and blah 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 blah. Okay, no, that's not what socialism is. Not even close. And by the way, that is U.S. government propaganda. So it's funny how Bill O'Reilly, who is a conservative dogmatist, who's like, oh, you can't trust the government about anything. It's so funny that this guy and so many others on the right, they're like, yeah, you can't trust the government about anything. It's weird then that they would buy into U.S. government propaganda about what socialism is. Because that is a U.S. government talking point that, socialism is centralized control of the economy and they decide what you can have and how much of it. No. Nope. That is not what socialism is. And by the way, that's not just a U.S. government talking point and propaganda. If you listen to Noam Chomsky, there was a video where he's talking to a Leninist and debating this Leninist, and he's like asked a question by this Leninist, and he's saying, and he tells her that it's not only the U.S. government that calls that type of system socialism. It's also the Soviet Union that called that system socialist. So when you recite that talking point of, oh, socialism is a centralized control of the economy and blah blah blah, and the government decides how much you can have and blah blah blah. That is a Soviet talking point. You're reciting Soviet propaganda. So, Bill, Comrade Bill, how you doing? Are you happy that you just recited Soviet propaganda? Um, so, Chomsky's point in saying that was the U.S. called it socialism. Called the Soviet model socialism for an opposite reason than the Soviet Union calling their system socialism. The Soviet Union called their system socialism because they tried to convince their people that that's what they were trying to achieve. They couldn't just say, hey, we're authoritarian assholes and we're, genocidal, marauding maniacs. They couldn't say that. So they're like, no, no, we're socialists, man. We're trying to achieve socialism. That's what we're doing. So they tried to put a happy face on what they were doing. That's why they called it socialism. Why the U.S. called their system socialism, of course, was to demonize the concept of socialism and misinform the American citizenry about what socialism is, because the American ruling class has a vested interest, of course, in misleading the American public about what socialism is, because if word gets out, then the American ruling class isn't going to be very happy, because workers will actually know what socialism means and they're going to be like, hey, that actually sounds pretty good, So let me tell you what socialism actually means, as I've been through before. But here's what socialism means: an economic system wherein workers democratically control the means of production in a non-hierarchical system, or a non-hierarchical fashion. So, in plain English, I'll tell you what that means, or I'll give you an example. Say you have a factory, okay? In this factory, the machines that are used to run the factory, and the factory itself, that factory is owned and operated by the workers themselves. It's not owned by, a group of shareholders or a CEO or, a boss. It is owned by the workers themselves. And decisions are made by those workers in a democratic way. Or there is the Mondragon model in Spain, where decisions are still made democratically, but they do have a president that is democratically elected. So you still have a you have a leader, but you don't necessarily have a boss. You know what I mean? So you delegate leadership responsibility to an individual, but that individual is directly elected by the workers themselves. So you are led but not dictated, I guess, is what I would say. So that's the Mondragon model. So this is what socialism actually is. So it's funny how Bill was saying earlier that he is against central government and centralized control over the economy, but he's totally in favor of centralized control over the workplace by a boss. Notice how he didn't say anything about that. He didn't say anything in opposition to that. So that kind of shows you, again, where his priorities lie. He's in favor of centralized control when it favors the working class. But when it's stuff for you, um, he wants you to submit to the authority of that boss. He doesn't want you to have control. He wants the boss to have control. Um, but again, when it's the government, God forbid they have control over anything regarding the people. Um, and of course, I'm not advocating for a, Leninist model. I'm just saying that as long as we have a government, the government should at least do some things for the people.
Definitely worked. So now Biden wants to reverse that, just like he reversed the border policy, and bring it back up to 29 for corporate tax, in addition to all the taxes they pay.
Okay, but the corporate tax is still less than it was under Obama. Under Obama, it was 35%, I think. So, yes, he wants to bring it up to 28 or 29%, but that's still less than what it was under Obama. So, what are you complaining about? Um, and as far as uh, Biden, quote unquote, reversing the border policy. Why? Because he let a few immigrants in to this country. Look, the problem with there were several problems, by the way, with the Trump immigration policy, but one of the main problems was he shut down legal ports of entry for asylum seekers. Legal ports of entry, which is not only against our laws, but against international law. So, of course, you're going to have it's like a bubble effect, or a balloon effect. Um, you're going to have all these. So, of course, this was bound to happen when you close these ports of entry and you have all these people who are seeking asylum. Of course, you're going to have this surge. This was inevitable. This was going to happen. Now, of course, there are problems with the way Biden is dealing with it. I agree with that, but and I agree that there should be more um, constructive ways in term that we deal with things like COVID checks and things like that. So yes, there are problems with the way Biden is dealing with it, but you can't completely let Trump off the hook for this. So anyway, continue.
To the states.
And by the way, hold on. Biden is not for open borders. That's a ridiculous talking point. And O'Reilly's made that point before. That's a ridiculous talking point.
Locals and all like that. There's an interesting debate going on between Amazon and some of the far left kooks. And Amazon's just listening. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to show you what the debate is. So anyway,
Amazon's far left. That's great. That's funny. Again, it's funny how people like maybe I'm misunderstanding what he's saying here, but I think what O'Reilly is saying is people like Jeff Bezos, like the big tech people. That's another talking point too. Is that these guys are like these hardcore leftists when these guys are all capitalists. It's like conservatives have nothing, on these people other than, oh, just label them far left if we don't like them. It's like, oh my God.
President Biden wants the $5 trillion, and he wants to take it from us. So what is that going to mean? I'll tell you. Because this is why you watch me. This is right in your personal zone. Okay? So the first part of the Build Back Better bill, 2 parts, is going to be green. It's the Green New Deal, essentially. Okay? Stop global warming, which it won't stop because...
Okay, stop right there. Stop. Biden is not in favor of the Green New Deal. He has his own plan that he's going to implement. Maybe there are some things that are similar, but most of it is not. He disparaged the Green New Deal over and over again on the campaign trail. So this idea that Joe Biden, number one, like Fox News does this a lot. They act like he's already implemented the Green New Deal. No, he hasn't, and he's also not in favor of the Green New Deal. So this is just a ridiculous conversation.
Because of China and India, we've already know that. Everybody knows that. But we're going to do.
China has made great strides on global warming. What are you talking about on climate change? They're not perfect, but they've massively reduced their carbon footprint. What are you talking about, Bill? Oh my God.
The Green New Deal here. Doesn't matter what they do, according to President Biden.
We but the other part of that, by the way, is we, as Chomsky said, by the way, we can control what we do. We can't control what China does and what India does. Who cares what they do? I mean, it matters what they do. I don't mean who cares, but it is important what China and India do. But we can control what we do. We can't control what India does. We can't control what China does. We can control what we do. So that's why we're worried about what we do. Don't deflect to China and India. We can control what we do only.
So there are going to be funds given to people who build energy efficient homes. So they'll get money. All right? Constructing new electrical power lines. All right, that's not a bad thing. I'd like to see all those power lines go underground. Investments in clean energy, I don't know what that means. The federal government doesn't know what it means.
What do you mean you don't know what that means? Federal investment in clean energy. How is that baffling to you, Bill? How is that how I don't even know what to say to that, because it's like, how is that not blatantly clear already? I'm not even going to respond to that. You should know. Like, is he lying or is he genuinely confused? I honestly don't know. Sometimes, like, oftentimes it's easy to tell when O'Reilly is lying because he lies so often. But here I'm genuinely confused. Like, I don't know if he's like absolutely genuinely taken aback, or if he's just lying, that he knows what clean energy means and he's, just lying here, or if if he genuinely is uneducated on what clean energy is. I don't know.
I remember Solindra. I mean, come on. But they're going to.
Oh my God. Ben Shapiro brought this up too. Get over Solyndra, okay? So one company that the government invested in didn't work. So what? That happens sometimes. Sometimes companies that receive government subsidies go under. Big deal. Um, Now, if it were me, government subsidies wouldn't really be a thing, but they are a thing, and sometimes, you know, things go kaput. Big deal.
Give billions of dollars to develop clean energy and funding to build millions of new energy efficient homes and retrofit existing buildings to increase efficiency. So there's going to be a lot of money flowing out of Washington into private hands, and God knows what those private hands are going to do with the money. But nobody can keep track of this. Now, the second part of the Build Back Better bill is giveaways. Okay? This is what they call income inequality. If you're not making a lot of money, if you're living in poverty, Biden's crew is going to just give you as much stuff as possible. So it would spend heavily on education programs meant to.
I like how Bill O'Reilly, he did this a few years ago too. He completely denies the concept of income inequality. He acts like literally everybody makes the exact same amount of money everywhere. Like, he literally denies, like he lives in this fantasy where everybody makes, I don't know, like 200 grand a year or something like that. It's like, Bill, that's not how it works. Um, there are people really, really hurting right now and really struggling to get on their feet. I'm one of them. So are you gonna tell me that, oh, I'm doing great? No, I'm not. And I know a lot of people that aren't doing well. So don't tell me and don't tell them, that, oh, you're fine. Uh, you're, Or don't tell me, oh, you're just lazy and unmotivated. No, there's very few opportunities. The it's a very long story in my case, but people. The point is, people are struggling, and to deny that there's any income inequality in this country at all, it's just a fantasy.
Increase the participation of women in the labor force. I mean, I think women make up half the labor force now. All right, expand subsidies for low and middle income Americans to buy health insurance. That's Obamacare. We already have that. Okay, and tax credit.
We do already have that, Bill. That's a very good point. I'm so proud of you, Bill. We already have that. That is a point, but we still have many, 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 many people in this country that are uninsured. Many people uninsured, and that is absolutely unconscionable. And but of course, Bill O'Reilly doesn't care because he's got health insurance. Who cares about anybody else? Um, so, but so yeah, Bill's comfortable. Um, so yeah, he doesn't care if anybody else has health insurance. But yeah, there's still plenty of people that need health insurance. Now, of course, expanding Obamacare won't help that many people. Um, we need to do at least a public option. That's what I'm in favor of. Um, like I said, I won't cry if we get Medicare for all. I'm not necessarily in favor of it, but like I said, I'm not going to cry if we ever end up getting it. We're not going to because uh, this country is ridiculous. But if we ever get a public option, that would be great. But anyway, continue. We're going to try to get through the last like 30 seconds here.
It's aimed at cutting poverty, particularly for children. So it's basically you're going to get everything free if you're below a certain income level. Everything's going to be free. Government's going to pick up the tabs for everything. Your food, your housing, your daycare, your education, everything. That's what socialism is. And that's what Biden wants.
Okay. So that was
Now, here's
ridiculous.
my question.
Whoops.
And
Shut up, Bill. Okay, so that was ridiculous. Um, that was awful, but it certainly was entertaining, wasn't it? Um, just a last quick thing here. The Biden's just going to give you everything free line. The whole everything free line is the laziest talking point I've ever heard. Um, when people say that, just like that they have nothing really to say, um, because that, like I said, it's just really lazy. Um, First of all, Bill, as we've established, that's not what socialism means. Um, and second of all, it's not like uh, you're gonna get free Barbies or free TVs or you know, um, because you said everything free, so or like free laptops or um, you know, free dishwashers or something. So what do you mean everything's going to be free and the government's going to pick up the tab for everything? That's not true. And that he's just lying. That he knows is not true. So so that's what's going on with Bill O'Reilly. And see what's annoying about him is is there are times he didn't really do it in this video, but he does do it in some of his videos where he pretends as if he's like super moral, and he does mention his like Christianity a lot. But Bill O'Reilly is one of those people that although he pretends like he's some, he's specifically a Catholic, he pretends like he's like some super faithful Catholic, but he doesn't embody any of the values that Jesus taught. Nothing. Nothing. Not a single value um, that Jesus taught. Like, for instance, this guy um, has multiple sexual abuse allegations, multiple domestic abuse allegations. He abandoned his kids. I mean, very, very Christian of you, Bill O'Reilly. Um, it's kind of like, again, we were talking about the Soviet Union and socialism. It's like you can call yourself anything. Yes, they called themselves the United Soviet Socialist Republics, but just because you call yourself something doesn't mean you are that. The Soviet Union was about as socialist as Bill O'Reilly is a Christian. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say, and see you guys next time. Thank you.